In the Kang Syndicate, there is a saying, the floor must be clean enough to see your own execution coming. My job was to make sure Seojin Kang never saw a speck of dust, let alone the truth. I was the girl in the yellow gloves, the ghost who scrubbed the mahogany while the Ice Prince built a throne out of corporate wreckage. I thought I was invisible. I thought I was safe. But tonight, as I reached for a stray piece of silver under his desk, the silence of the 43rd floor didn't just break, it shattered. Welcome back to the channel. If you're ready for a story where the nobody becomes the only person who matters, hit that like button, comment seen below, and subscribe. Because in this office, the walls don't just have ears, they have eyes. The following week, the 43rd floor became a psychological minefield. Seojin began leaving his world wide open, unencrypted tablets glowing with shipping manifests, physical ledgers with red-inked names of senators, and maps of the Chicago docks marked with X's that didn't denote treasure, but casualties. He was baiting me, waiting for the little bird to peck at the grain. I cleaned around the secrets with surgical precision, never letting my gaze linger a second too long. But the information seeped into me like a slow-acting poison. I knew which logistics companies were shells and which law firms were laundering the serpent's gold. Seojin watched me from the shadows of his high-backed chair, a predator enjoying the fact that his prey was starting to realize the cage was made of glass. Danger didn't stay on the 43rd floor. It followed me into the damp, neon-slicked streets. Cold Heir, the syndicate's silent shadow, began appearing in the reflection of shop windows as I walked to the L train. He was a shark in a neutral-toned suit, measuring my stride. But Rook underestimated the girl who spent her life becoming part of the furniture. In the belly of the State and Lake Station, amidst the swarm of late shift workers and the screech of steel on steel, I didn't run. I dissolved. I shed my black work jacket, tucked my hair into a beanie, and slipped through a service door I'd cleaned 1,000 times. By the time the train pulled away, Rook was left staring at an empty platform, realizing that a ghost is impossible to track when she knows where the dust settles. Seojin's response to my disappearance was a promotion. He required me to clean a private gala at the Kang estate, a test to see if I would shatter under the weight of the elite world. Before the guests arrived, he stood behind me, his hands cold as he fastened the platinum necklace around my throat. "A gift," he whispered, his thumb grazing the serpent-etched pendant. I knew what it was. A tracker. A digital leash. "Tonight, you aren't just cleaning the room, Aveline. You're the only eyes I trust to tell me who's sweating under the silk." I moved through the party in my server's uniform, the tracker a heavy weight against my collarbone, cataloguing the subtle tremors in the hands of the petal of gold's delegates. The audit came when Seojin was away. Mirella Voss, the ledger keeper, summoned me to the windowless archives of the sub-basement. She sat behind a desk piled with files that officially didn't exist. "You've become a distraction, Aveline," she said, her glasses reflecting the sterile light. "Seojin is an ice prince, but even ice can be cracked by a persistent enough tremor. Tell me what you saw on the 43rd floor." I played the part of the simple, terrified girl perfectly. The stutter, the wide, vacant eyes, the clumsy grip on my cleaning rag. Mirella watched me with a gaze that looked for lies in the way a vulture looks for rot. She didn't find them, but she didn't let me go. She simply marked my file with a red stamp. I was no longer a ghost. I was a liability. The cracks in the glass finally splintered on a rainy Tuesday. I was polishing the two-way mirror in Seojin's private study when a muffled argument broke out in the main office. Through the glass, I saw a high-ranking board member pull a silenced pistol and press it to the back of a loyalist's head. The thwip of the shot was followed by the wet thud of a body. The board member didn't look remorseful. He looked at his watch. I froze, my cloth still pressed against the glass. The traitor wasn't an outsider. It was the man Seojin called his right hand. The raid happened an hour later. Rival syndicates, tipped off by the traitor, breached the 43rd floor with the violence of a tidal wave. The power died, plunging the glass throne into a world of flickering red emergency lights and gunfire. I could have run. I knew the service exits better than anyone. But I saw Seojin trapped in the corner of his office, blood blooming across his charcoal suit, his surgical control finally failing. I didn't run for the door. I ran for him. I used a heavy floor buffer to barricade the private elevator and dragged him into the narrow, dark confines of the service lift. Inside the rattling metal box, the silence returned, punctuated only by Seojin's ragged breathing. I ripped my apron to bind the wound in his side. "You should have left me," he rasped, his eyes finding mine in the dark. "I knew you were smart, but I didn't think you were foolish." I pulled the bandage tight, looking him directly in the eye for the first time. "I know about the ghost shipments in the Atlantic. I know Morella is skimming from the Jade accounts. I know the man you trust just killed your pilot." I leaned in, the Ice Prince's blood staining my hands. "You didn't see me because I was invisible. You saw me because you were looking for someone who wasn't a mirror of yourself." The morning light rose over a fractured empire. Seojin sat behind his desk, the glass behind him bullet-riddled but standing. He looked at me, not at the girl with the mop, but at the woman who had held his life together in the dark. He pushed a tablet across the desk. It wasn't a ledger, it was a contract. "Morella is gone. The traitors are being scrubbed from the books. I don't need someone to clean my floors anymore, Aveline. I need someone who knows how to find the dirt before it touches the silk." I looked at the serpent-etched pendant on the desk. I wasn't the little bird anymore. I was the hawk sitting on his shoulder. "I'll take the job," I said, my voice steady and cold. "But from now on, I'm the only one who decides what stays hidden." The cleaner's debt. The 43rd floor didn't smell like ozone anymore. It smelled like expensive cedar and the metallic ghost of the violence that had sanctified it. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at Chicago. From this height, the people below were just specks of dust, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't one of them. Seojin sat at his desk, his serpent tattoo now fully visible above his collar. A symbol of a man who no longer needed to hide behind a starched facade. He was signing a document, the scratch of the pen the only sound in the room. "He's in the lobby," Seojin said without looking up. "He thinks he's here for a promotion." I didn't need to check the monitors. I had memorized the traitor's heat signature on the infrared scanners 10 minutes ago. He's early. Guilt makes people punctual. I walked toward the private elevator, but I wasn't carrying a cleaning cart. I was wearing a tailored suit the color of a bruise, and my hands were bare. No yellow gloves. No apron to hide behind. I stepped into the elevator and descended to the sub-basement, the archives where Morella Voss once tried to bury me. The board member who had pulled the trigger during the raid was waiting. When he saw me, his expression shifted from confusion to a smug, dismissive grin. "Where's Seojin? And why are they sending the help to fetch me?" "The help is busy," I said, my voice as flat and cold as a winter lake. I walked toward him, my heels clicking a steady rhythm on the concrete. "But I'm here to discuss your severance package." He laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "You've got a lot of nerve for someone who used to scrub my toilet, little girl." I stopped inches from him. I didn't pull a gun. I pulled a small gold serpent cufflink from my pocket, the one I'd found in the drapes. I pressed it into his palm, leaning in close enough to see the sweat beginning to bead on his forehead. "You dropped this when you killed the loyalist," I whispered. "I cleaned it for you. But you know the rule of the Kang Syndicate. Some stains don't come out." His eyes went wide as he realized the room was sealed. He reached for his waistband, but I was faster. I didn't need a weapon. I knew exactly where the human body was most fragile, a secret I'd learned while watching men think I wasn't listening. A sharp strike to the throat, a sweep of the leg, and he was on the floor, gasping for air that I was no longer willing to let him have. I stood over him, watching the light fade from his eyes, just like I'd watched the dust disappear under my cloth for years. I didn't feel regret. I felt a strange, terrifying sense of order. I returned to the 43rd floor. Seojin was standing by the window now, waiting. He didn't ask if it was done. He knew. "Is the office clean, Aveline?" he asked, his reflection meeting mine in the glass. I walked to his side, looking out at the empire we now shared. I reached out and traced the glass, leaving a single, defiant fingerprint on the pristine surface. "It's spotless," I said, "and I'll make sure it stays that way." He turned, his gaze heavy and unblinking, finally seeing the hawk that had been hiding in the bird's feathers all along. He took my hand, the hand that used to scrub his floors, and pressed a kiss to the knuckles. "Long live the Queen of the Glass," he murmured. The city hummed below us, a world of secrets waiting to be swept up. And I was finally the one holding the broom.